What is up, everybody? This is Lyle with No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. Back at the house right now. Just got in midday Saturday after running a load from Pennsylvania out to the Denver yard. I'm still in that recuperation mode, so haven't had a chance to knock this hairdo back, get shaved up good. I might even get a little feminine on you, knock out a little bath here in a little bit with some bath crystals and all that kind of stuff. But, that's all about settling back in. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you guys about was my 1 year at Prime. Now, we are essentially 3 days away from the first day that I actually started at Prime, March 5th of 2019. And I kind of wanted to just tell you what my thoughts are on Prime. Now, before I talk about my feelings as far as Prime goes, listen, this is going to be very specific to you in general. There are people that I know closely that are extremely happy with Prime, and there are people that I'm fairly close to that aren't as happy with Prime. So this is going to be kind of individual. And I think a lot of this has to do with, at the very beginning, your recruiter is going to play a large part. Maybe not as large of a part as the rest of these, but the recruiter is going to have a little bit of how you feel about Prime. Then next it's going to be whoever your trainer is. If you happen to go out in training with your, if you leave the terminal for your PSD phase and your TNT training, your trainer is going to have a lot to do with that. Now, I had some issues with my first trainer. And who knows, had I stayed with that trainer, maybe my thoughts would be completely different about Prime, but I had a chance to get in with a great trainer that I spent 150,000 miles of training with. So listen, I didn't have to do that. All I had to do was my 30,000, but I'm a long-term viewer, and I realized the more effort I put in up front, the better things would be at the end. So I was not trying to rush through that training. Now, beyond that, you're also going to have a dispatcher that you're going to have to deal with. And I hear that some people are not as happy with their dispatcher as I am with mine. So keep all these things in mind. Like I said, I think that the general consensus is that most people are happy with Prime. But listen, there's a lot of individual things that can happen to kind of skew your perception in one way or the other. So let's kind of get into it. As far as my recruitment process is concerned, I think for us older people or people that have things a little bit more established, it was almost kind of like, I wanted information further ahead than a month out, and they really weren't willing to give that information, as well as other companies. The other company I was thinking about was Night Transportation, and unless you were kind of within that 1 month period of time, they really weren't trying to give a whole bunch of information. So that's more of an industry thing, I think, than a Prime thing. From there, once I submitted all the information, it was almost like they want you there immediately. Now, being a grown-ass man with, obligations and stuff like that, it's not easy for me to just be like, I'll be there in a week. So they kind of were trying to push that a little bit more than what I kind of wanted. So, but they really weren't salesmen. So it was kind of odd that there was a little bit of pressure, but not like in a sales-oriented kind of a way. So I would say if you're thinking about getting into trucking, before you even call the recruiter, have everything in place. I needed to get how my rentals were going to get paid for. I had to put stuff on, I hate having things on auto payment and stuff like that. So I had to get a lot of those things together. But that's one thing. I decided to drive my own car out to Salt Lake City. Didn't plan on having anybody reimburse me, but my recruiter told me that once you get your license, get back with me and then we'll refund you for that. That never happened. It was a couple $100. I really wasn't concerned with it. I probably could have got it, but I'm not going to sit here and argue over a couple $100 or worry about it even. So anyway, got out to Salt Lake City, did my training there. there was no trainer that came and picked me up, so I happened to do my training on the pad. Listen, as far as passing your CDL, you cannot go any better than doing your training on the pad. I can only speak for Salt Lake City, but that training is specifically guaranteed to have you pass your CDL. Now, that being said, I didn't, everybody's all about, I trifected. I didn't get that because I was coming up on a light that till this day, I think it was the right move. And I would do the same thing where I'm not going to slam on the brakes. If it's kind of yellow and I'm going into it, I'm going through it. But that was an auto fail. And I didn't, I failed. There's a lot of people out there that trifected that are out there tearing up trucks right now. So really don't put a bunch of pressure on yourself about passing that test up front. It's a small thing. As long as you get your CDL, good to go. So I give the Salt Lake City terminal, all my trainers out there, a 10 as far as that goes, as well as the orientation staff. Really had a great time out there with that. So once you get that, you get your CDL. Now all of a sudden you are an employee of Prime. Once you become an employee of Prime, they're going to get you set up with a T&T trainer to go out and do your training. I happen to only have to do 30,000 miles of T&T training. That was my obligation when I first got there. So at that time, that's what you had to complete. My first trainer came out to Denver for reasons I'm not even going to get into. We just weren't a proper match. Some of you people that, I've kind of spoke with know kind of what the situation was on that and understand how that was not going to be a workable situation. But the good thing about Prime, we brought that situation to them and they got me another trainer right off the bat. So I spent a couple days in Springfield. My other trainer came and picked me up, and I was so happy with that trainer that I spent from mid-April to mid-November staying on his truck. I did not need to stay on his truck that long, but the training was invaluable. Decided to stay on, and I would have stayed on until January because I knew I was going to go lease, and I didn't want to start a business at the end of the year, which I ended up having to do because he ended up leaving Prime to pursue some personal goals outside of trucking. So I think he's coming back, or he came back. Sometimes he doesn't answer the phone as often as I'd like, so I don't know exactly what the situation is on that. So anyway, boom. Do my training, 150,000 miles, and, the pay was good. When I was going through, it was basically $700 for 30,000 miles. Then they had it where if you stayed on your trainer's truck, you made $1,000 minimum. So I stayed on, was making $1,000 a week. And a lot of times more than that because we were runners and gunners. I'm just letting you know. We were out there running. So I was making probably more than that, a guarantee, at all those phases in the T&T training. Once it was time for me to upgrade, it was kind of a little small hiccup again. I upgraded to company because they took away that $1,000 guarantee. So I decided to upgrade to company, stay with my trainer. And then once he decided to leave Prime, I upgraded to Lease. And that's kind of where there was a little bit of gray area going on. When I decided to upgrade the second time, I ended up paying for my hotel out in Springfield myself. Now, if I'm going to pay for it, I'm not going to pay for some off-brand hotel. I'm going to go ahead and stay in the Oasis. So I probably spent a good $700 during that upgrade process of my own money. Now, I don't think that's standard, so really don't. I think it was because of the way I did it. I'm out here looking out for everybody else instead of necessarily looking out for myself. I still don't fault myself for that decision. And in the long run, I'm going to be able to write that off anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But everybody may not have that money. So upgraded, got my truck, got out rolling. Now, I came lease right out the box. Now, I'm not saying that's the thing to do, but I spent a lot of time kind of going over different things and seeing different things when I was with my trainer. So I don't necessarily look at it as I don't look at it the same way as if I just did 30,000 miles and then went lease. Plus, I have a lot of other things that make leasing a better option for me. So anyway, went straight lease And I could tell you that as far as the money's concerned, I've made more money than I thought I would make. And I'm really pleased with my choice to go lease. I'm so happy with my choice to go lease that I'm actually, as a matter of fact, I just submitted my lease purchase new truck order on Success Leasing. We're going to be going with the nice little logo on it. If you've seen my post, it's going to be a tie-dye hippie or tie-dye peace symbol with no hippie LLC around it. I've had a chance to look at how these 3 months were, and we're talking about probably the worst 3 months in trucking. So December, January, February, looked at how those numbers came out. I'm making, I'm making probably 25% more than I thought I would make in the best of times. So this is only going to go up from here. My thinking is, if I plan on paying a monthly payment that's going to be equivalent to the lease purchase payment, I might as well end up with a little something at the end. So rather than doing a no money down lease where at the end of the lease I get possibly a lease completion bonus, let's say $15,000, $20,000, I will do this where I put down $14,000 plus whatever my accessories are, and then have a truck that's worth, let's say $80,000. So you subtract out me not getting a lease completion bonus, let's say $20,000, and then you add the $15,000 to that. I'm looking at coming out ahead $40,000, $45,000 just in the value of the truck. So that's kind of why I went with the lease purchase, not because I really care about owning a truck. To me, a truck payment is a cost of doing business. So what do I think about the lease with Prime? Listen, I think that's all going to have to do with your dispatcher. I've heard different people say different things about different dispatchers. I'm completely comfortable with my dispatcher. If I was having to, I'm a little worried about that. My dispatcher, I have 100% confidence in him. Hopefully he stays at Prime for the duration of time that I stay with Prime, because I have heard that things aren't always the same with other dispatchers, but I don't know. That we'll worry about that down the road if it ever becomes a problem to even worry about. So what do I think about Prime? Listen, I'm repping Prime right here. It's all about the ink, baby. And, this is my personal experience. Like I said, your experience may vary based on a number of different things. But in my experience, if I thought that, how can I explain this? If I thought that, whatever my thoughts were about truck driving before I got into it, or Prime or any truck company, if I had whatever my preconceived notions were, this has kind of exceeded it. Now, there are things that I didn't know about trucking that I learned about after I got into trucking. That's a totally separate video, but taking all those things into consideration, this has been a great move, and hopefully this lease purchase will be a great move also. Now, I know there's going to be people that are going to keep, because I've always had people tell me, I'm going to go broke, I'm going to go broke. Listen, I'm not going to go broke. Even if I give the $14,000 and things don't work out, I'm still going to be fine. But I know there's going to be some people coming at me with some negativity, talking about how stupid I am and all this kind of stuff. And the only thing I have to say to them is, if I could just go ahead and dump $14,000 on this, how stupid can I be? Anyway, thank you guys for stopping by No Hippie Truck and Transportation. I appreciate it. Comment, subscribe. I'm out.